Hello, Hauppauge. I'm Jack Ford, and today we are here in the Eagle Watch studio joined by a very special guest, the new high school principal, Mr. Christopher Cook. Mr. Cook, thank you for joining us here today. You've been such a huge supporter of Eagle Watch so far, and I just want to thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
All right, so full disclosure, everyone, me and Mr. Cook have actually known each other for a little bit now. I was on the interview committee when he was first hired, and I can confirm he is a all right guy.
Thanks for the compliment. Really appreciate it.
So I wanted to start off today talking a little bit about your education, because
Yep.
a lot of people don't know you're actually a Harvard graduate. So can you talk a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I grew up in Suffolk County. I went to Shore and Wading River schools, graduated in the early 2000s, and from there went to school in Boston, went to Northeastern University, had an extraordinary experience there, got to live smack in the city, got to experience a lot of what it feels like to live in a city like Boston that's so educationally focused. And from there, kind of slid right into teaching. Was hired to be a building substitute at a charter public school right in the middle of the city, Boston Prep, where ultimately I did become principal a few years later. But after a few years of teaching, decided to apply to get trained to be a principal, and so completed my master's degree in school leadership at Harvard, and felt like I had a wonderful opportunity there to learn from some of the most dynamic educators in the country.
So could you elaborate a little bit on the schools you worked on in Boston and stuff like that, and what you did there, and
Yeah.
your experience in education prior to coming to here?
So growing up, I thought I would either be a lawyer or a businessman or an educator, and feel really lucky to have had really amazing educators when I was in high school, and then some extraordinary professors in college. But that didn't really lead to a guarantee of getting a teaching job. So coming out of Northeastern, I applied to a whole host of positions and was able to be hired as a building substitute at a small charter school that was in the beginning of its tenure, and was hired to come in every day and substitute in 6th grade through 9th grade classes and just kind of learn the ropes. Pretty quickly I was brought in to be a full-time English and history teacher, was simultaneously offered a position to be the athletic director. So in a really small school, had the ability to learn a lot really quickly, got to do a whole host of different things. And the people at Boston Prep really have a standard for what excellence looks like. So I very quickly got to learn what excellence could look like in a school. After a few years, went back to grad school, as I alluded earlier, came out of grad school and received an opportunity to be a principal at another charter school in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Community Charter School of Cambridge. It's one of the highest performing schools in the state, and it serves both Boston students and Cambridge students. It happens to be right in the Kendall MIT neighborhood, so our neighbors were institutions like Google and Microsoft and really all these really extraordinary institutions to go along with MIT and Harvard. So got to run a school smack in the middle of that neighborhood was wonderful. After a few years there, was asked to come back to be a school leader at Boston Prep, where I had started my career. Not knowing if I would stay in school administration forever, I decided, if I'm gonna do this, I want to try it back at Boston Prep and see what I can do there. At the time, we were going through an exciting growth period. We actually built a brand new facility while I was there, and so from the ground up, got to design what the school looked like, or help participate in the design of what the school would look like. Got to think about what we were going to do to transition from the beginning of a school to a more established school. And along the way, my wife, who's also from Long Island, and I had 3 kids. She completed her doctorate at Boston College. And after our 3rd child was born about a year and a half ago, we started to think about what we wanted the next 20 years of our life to look like. And the answer quickly became we wanted to be nearer to family. So about a year ago, we decided to move back to the area. Actually bought a home in Stony Brook and had to figure out what we were doing next. And along the last, I guess now, 8 months or so, was looking at schools in Suffolk County to work at. And as I found Hauppauge, it just seems like it's an extraordinary place, and I feel really, really lucky to be here.
So could you talk a little bit more on why you chose Hauppauge specifically? Like, what makes it so special to you, and like, what makes it different than those Boston charter schools, or such as that?
Yeah, why I'm here is because I think there's a lot of similarities between the schools that I ran in Boston and Hauppauge. So I think it takes a special group of people to say that they want to achieve excellence every single day in schools. And my experience in the application process to Hauppauge was that it was very rigorous, that it was clear that the district level leaders and the school level leaders were very intentional in what they were looking for. And all of that extensive process really spoke to me that they take things really seriously, that the ways in which they make decisions are thoughtful, have been discussed by people in the interview, but people outside of the interview. So it felt very intentional to me. And intentionality is a big part to me of enabling people to achieve excellence. With all of that said, walking into the school and seeing what's here, it was really clear to me that the energy here is that the school wants to build upon itself. It's not satisfied with where it has been historically, even though that's a really good place to be, and it's eager to be the very best school possible. And so that's what really spoke to me in the interview process. I got to talk with a lot of school leaders in Suffolk County throughout the time that I was looking for a position, and this was the number one position to me as I went through that process, and feel, again, really lucky to be here.
Okay, so I wanted to get more into specific questions and stuff you've been doing around here and whatnot. So the first thing I wanted to address was the parking lot situation.
Yes.
I know that it's created a lot of controversy
Yeah.
around the school and stuff like that amongst parents, teachers, students. So could you address a little bit what's going on with that? What plans do you have? And
Yeah.
I wanted to give you a little more of a chance to explain what's going on.
Yeah, so I think we've been reaching out to try to explain the why. So any changes that occur here, that will always lead with why we're doing something. So really right from the beginning, even in the interview process of like talking about school safety, it became very clear that Hauppauge takes school safety really seriously. School safety is an extraordinarily important thing to me. To just give you like an arc on, I think, how and why school safety is so important to me. So I was a ninth grader when Columbine happened. I was a senior in high school when 9/11 occurred. And actually, I was not at mile 26, but I was just a couple miles away when the Boston Marathon occurred, at the actual marathon. And across all of those experiences, it's clear that we live in a world that's dramatically different than it was 30 years ago. And the amount of violence that can occur just like that is a really scary set of circumstances to be running a school. In the schools in Boston, I took safety extraordinarily seriously. So I ran schools that were devoid of fights, devoid of violence really at all. And that's been something that I pride myself on. I want parents and students, when they arrive to school, to know that when we close the doors after students arrive, that the inside of the building is extraordinarily safe. So all of that led to some conversations this summer about how to do it. We did not at the time, or we still don't, have a sidewalk from the north lot to the south lot, or to the main entranceway, which means as students come in, they're coming in side doors and kind of whatever way they could get in. So that entrance, which has historically been the way, as we've sorted out kind of a better way maybe to enter, we need to think about a way to funnel everybody to a single entrance point. So as of this week, students are parking in the south lot and entering through the main entranceway. I will say, we articulated earlier that there'd be some hiccups in the transition into the school. This morning, as we were out there was some traffic, but it was nowhere near what it has been, and the flow seems to be going pretty well. But an announcement that I'm ready to make right now is that as of this week, we are finalizing plans to put in a sidewalk from the north lot across the front of the property into the main entrance areaway. So that structural change will enable us to have some flexibility about how we adjust the morning routine, and we'll broadcast as we make those decisions more broadly to the Hauppauge community.
All right, awesome. So you can plug your show a little bit now. You do have a YouTube channel where you do record stuff, right?
I do have a YouTube channel. I didn't realize I was going to get to plug it here. And actually, shortly after this is done, Mr. Whitehorse is going to jump on and do the next episode of the YouTube channel. We're working on a title. Right now it's loosely titled Hauppauge High School Happenings, where we'll come through for about 2 minutes a week, have an administrator or somebody else broadcasting what's going on here at the school. In today's day and age, it feels appropriate to have a social media platform that quickly gets information to people. So excited about it. So if you haven't subscribed, please do.
Shameless plug. All right. So another thing I wanted to touch on it's personal to me is school spirit.
Yes.
So school spirit is something that as my course is going from a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, I've seen it dwindle over the years. I've seen it progressively just lessen and lessen in the school. And so what's something that you could do or that you're going to do to help bolster it and bring a sense of community back?
Yeah, so people often talk about school culture and school pride and school spirit as part of part of something it's like, whose responsibility is it? Is it the teacher's responsibility? Is it the principal's responsibility? Is it other administrators' responsibility? Is it the PTA's responsibility? And every school in the country kind of looks at this issue with more or less intentional in their search through the issue. I'm walking in, there are so many good things happening here. At the administrative level, our responsibility is pretty simple. We have to make sure that it's all orchestrated together. So, part of it is the morning entry routine has a security element, but now we have every student having a shared experience as they come through the entryway. And as we fine-tune that, you can expect for us to kind of enliven that space so that as students walk through the door, they feel like they're part of something special, that they're coming into a learning environment. If we take that a step further, I want every student that walks through the door to be very clearly excited about at least one thing in their day. So whether that's students who are involved in music or the individuals in this studio who are clearly invested in a media program to a high degree, kids need something that they're walking through the door to be excited about. So at the administrative level, we're asking, what do students participate in? What are they excited about? And how do we know who's not really doing anything, and how do we situate them to get involved with some things?
So to build on that a little more, so how are you going to ensure that every student who comes in here is not only getting a positive learning experience, but also having emotional growth and mental growth?
Yeah, so I'm a huge data person. So I run meetings, and this is going to be educationally wonky, but that's okay. Where we literally will have spreadsheets of kids where we are trying to understand where they're at academically, where they're at emotionally, what extracurriculars and other activities they're participating in. And we'll take a very deliberate approach to understand what the profile of student is and who is really excelling and who's thriving via anecdotal and concrete data. And then we'll make some clear action steps and appoint different people here from the teacher team and the educator team to follow up with students if it seems like some students aren't really enjoying themselves here. That might sound silly. I've seen that approach, that type of where you focus on really tiny details, translate into a school community where every student has at least one adult where they can feel comfortable talking to that person, where every student is targeted to have a peer group that they can feel pretty comfortable in. And so that type of intentionality, and I use that word now a few times here, is what we're hoping to do. And I think it's going to be very possible, and you'll be able to see the benefits over time. We certainly have some other things to do in terms of macro level school culture stuff, but things like Kicks for Cancer and Homecoming and other events that are coming up certainly will give us an opportunity to do that a little bit more too.
Yeah, so you talked a little in there about how you wanted students to have a teacher or a person to come to. So
Yes.
How are you working towards making yourself that person to come to the students?
Yeah. I've run schools that are around 250, 300 kids. And for that size school, often I was that person. But more often were other teachers and other educators in the building were that primary person. And maybe I was secondary or third person on a student's list. My responsibility is to empower and engage people to want to get better, is to create an environment where people are excited to come to school every day, and to pay attention to any data that we're getting to ensure that everybody in the building is being paid attention to, whether that's custodial staff, whether that's TAs, whether that's our teachers, whether that's our students, whoever it is. So my job is not necessarily to be the most important person in everybody's life, but it's to make sure that everybody has an important person in their life that they can lean on.
Right, yeah. So I actually now wanted to open the floor to you a little bit, just in case you had anything you wanted to say to the community, any announcements you want to make or plans you're thinking about doing and just wanted to announce.
No, I feel really welcomed by the community. We made some shifts to our entry routine that we've pretty clearly articulated are about safety. I'm excited to see how those continue to shift. But bottom line, and I said this at 9th grade Ignition, there's nothing more valuable than the kids that we have in the building. And we know that families at home, that there's nothing more valuable to them. And the level of trust that you need to have in order to feel good about sending your kid to school on a daily basis is extraordinary. We take that responsibility of working with every single kid extraordinarily seriously. And on top of that, we understand that this is a process of helping individuals go through life, make mistakes, have successes, think about ways to position themselves for the future. And oddly, we have this really strong juxtaposition of our job is certainly to take care of students here, but in the same time, it's to prepare students for the first day that they're not Hauppauge High School students. And so that process of supporting students and taking care of students and enabling them to understand how to navigate the world from day one of high school through the last day of high school is something that we're going to take, and we have taken for a long time, very seriously. And I'm excited to see what we're able to accomplish together. But bottom line, I hope that you can trust us. We've all gone through our own ups and downs, and we're a team that's pretty well versed in how to help people grow. And I'm excited by what we might be able to do here together.
So the entire time I've noticed you've talked a lot about family, and clearly that's something that's very important to you.
Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit more on your personal life?
Throw in the
I'm
personal
interested.
life question at the end. I like it. Yeah, so I'm extraordinarily close with my family. To speak concretely about my parents, my mom was a 5th grade teacher at Rocky Point, recently retired. My dad worked in retail and did business training for his career and was able to be a part of pretty successful businesses. And they are extraordinarily important to me as guides in my life. Beyond that, I feel really privileged to have some incredible mentors, some coaches who I had the privilege of being a part of teams and classes at Shoreham that are really important. And then beyond that, my wife and kids are the most important thing to me in the world. We live just down the street in Three Village, literally just kind of get on one road and go. And then I have 3 kids, so I have a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. That's the crew. I'm sure you'll see them at games. My son came on Friday night to the football game. We're doing swimming on Saturdays. So we're excited
I'm a
about
swimmer.
it. Excellent.
I can teach him.
Excellent.
We're set.
And then we'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to be it. That's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us. I know that you'll do a great job. I know everyone at home knows you'll do a great job. So the best of luck from here.
Great.
So,
thanks
you very much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
All right.
it.
So to everyone watching at home, thank you for tuning in, and make sure to stay tuned for the first edition of the new season of Eagle Watch. Signing off, I'm Jack Ford.